Did you bring some fish?
That is quite logical, Captain.
Where shall I strike?
Test your might. Test your might.
Get it out! Get it out!
Test your might. Test your might.
Your mother was a murderer! You smell like a leopard! You are not prepared!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to show 134 of the Geek Card. I am Razerbug, and with me, as always, is the fantabulous Robbie Glow.
Hello.
Hello, how are we, sir?
Oh God! If last week we were having problems of technology, it seems to have kept going.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't it just, yes.
Oh, so my TV that I've been using as a monitor for like 4.5 years finally decided to smoke out on me on
Ouch.
Saturday morning. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
So I had to order a new TV online and pick it up the same day. So I didn't really have like the chance to sort of like get the exact thing I wanted or whatever, but I got something.
Mm.
So I brought it home, set it all up, and then I realized two things. One is that it displays 720p for monitors,
Oh,
which isn't terrible because you can scale things around that. But it did mean that when I had to start playing WoW, everything was off scale and really weird.
oh that's not good.
But in hindsight, it means I can now play WoW on max settings without even having the graphics card cough at me.
Oh, right.
So, it's all right. Once I got LVY is really nice because it can scale.
Mm.
You can just press a button. You can just type a number in, like how big do you want the scale, and it'll just automatically do most things. So that was fine. But the other thing, TVs now don't have analog outputs for audio anymore. And I found this was the case with most TVs now. So I found this out the hard way by using an RCA cable from my speakers to the TV, because it had, when you look at it, it just had like a white and a red plug. So you think, oh, okay, righto, I'll put that in. And then it didn't work. And then I looked into it and I was like, hang on, they both say audio in at both ends.
Okay.
What the fuck? So it turns out that you can do RCA analog into the TV, but not out.
Oh.
Yeah. So I looked into it further, and the only outputs there are is digital. So is it SPDIF?
Spadif.
Yeah. So I went on Amazon extremely quickly and was like, digital to analog signal converter, please. And luckily there was such a thing. So that was fine. But why isn't there even a headphone jack on a TV anymore? Like aux cables are lovely. Like, don't get rid of them.
I don't know, because I mean, I use well, no, actually, this is not a TV; it's just a big monitor. But I use a television, obviously, as a television, and that has all kinds of audio out. Is it just on the smaller models, maybe?
This is a 20. I did have a 32-inch TV, and now it's a 28. So
Right.
I don't know whether it's the restricted space or whatever, but it was just weird that like everything about it was like good, because I like had an Amazon Fire Stick and I had all like a free sat box and a free view thing, because the other TV didn't even have any of that, right?
Right.
So I thought, right, I can reduce a lot of my energy consumption if I get a TV that has built-in free view aerial signal, and this one also has a free satellite built in. So those were like the selling points. So it was like, so I can get rid of a lot of my accessories that are running a lot of power and be done with that. And then when I was looking into it, it also turned out that this had Netflix and Amazon Video built in, so
right.
even better. So that was another thing I could like get rid of. So I've now got two HDMI. I've got an HDMI port for my PC, and I've got an HDMI port for my Nintendo Switch, and that's all I'll ever need now.
Fair enough.
But the digital output only thing really confused me. And when I looked for similar TVs again, when I looked at it again, like 27, 28-inch TVs, all of them, all new ones, don't seem to do analog audio anymore.
Does it have optical audio out?
It does have optical audio. That is the
Yeah.
one I was on about,
Yeah.
with the weird like square plug.
Yeah, that's the one I have to use to connect to the soundbar to mine. But I was just having a quick look at my. So I've got a 32-inch monitor and a 24-inch monitor, and I was looking just to see if the monitor, being this size, actually has TV options. And although it has HDMI in and it's got speakers built in, and it has an audio jack, it doesn't seem to have a tuner or anything like that. So I don't think you could use it as a TV. So that's kind of confusing. They still put them in. They still put them in monitors, but not in TVs.
Yeah, it really kind of made me go a little bit crazy on Saturday, to be honest. But the thing is, though, the for the meantime, like the speakers built into the TV aren't terrible, but obviously it'd be nice to use this pair of speakers I've been using for like 10 years because I've liked them ever since I got them. And they've always worked. And then it was like, oh wait, these are analog. Of course, that's a thing that I didn't even consider was a thing, that everything's digital. So yeah, I mean, it's like £10 for the digital optical digital output to convert it to an analog signal to get it to an RCA. So it's still an expense, right? But from what I've read, this is like a common problem with UK like TVs these days. Like a lot of the reviews were like, if you're in the UK, you'll probably need this. So I was like, why couldn't they just specify and just say there is no analog out or something? And then that I could have been like, okay, well then I know that I've got to order a thing and be done with it. But that was one part. I'll just briefly go over what I did with WoW this week. We went to raid. We finished the Desire Law raid, so we went to the mini raid before, and we managed to get the first boss down on the first night we went. We
surprised ourselves.
We did, and it was very confusing because it was like, hang on, this is like progression. We go into a current content and do it the first week. What?
It was particularly stressful for me because we realised that the configuration of the group and the configuration of the fight, we would need 4 healers. So having previously stated that I better not heal because I can't be relied on to. Sorry, excuse me. My watch is deciding to take this moment to start talking to me. So yes, so I'd sort of established that me healing would be bad because I keep getting disconnected by my bloody computer. But I suddenly realised, we actually are going to need someone else to heal. So I switched characters and like you say, we got through it and it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I did disconnect 3 times in that fight. So every time I logged back in, it was like, right, will I have been stood in the bad? Do I? And every time I managed to I somehow came back up in a perfectly safe place and just got back on with healing again.
It was weird because we actually managed to get the pool that we actually got the first boss down. No one in the raid died.
No.
And I think that's a first.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever done a raid boss where everyone's lived before.
We sort of took ourselves by surprise because we got to about like sort of 70%, and our raid leader's like, okay, so 70% on the, what was it, like the 4th pull?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so 70% of the 4th pull, that's pretty good. I think we're starting to get this. And then we got to about 50%. It's like, 50%, there we are. We've got these mechanics down. Next time we have a pull, it'll all go smoothly. And then you got down to about 30. I think everyone then sort of forgot. And we just carried on doing the mechanics for a bit. And then someone sort of was like, 10%, guys. 10%.
We need to kill them together.
Yeah.
This is a new thing. Oh, God, we need to do it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like, that one mechanic we didn't mention because we didn't think we'd get here. Right, now we have to do it. Okay. And somehow it just came together. Like you say, not even a single person dead. So, yeah.
Yeah. There was a weird mechanic where you had to have one of the ranged DPS running around doing something completely different with a healer following them, which was a thing that I was very confused at, but that wasn't my job, so I didn't have to really care about it, right?
The thing that confused me is that seemed to require one of the pet classes that can use the pet to tank. But Blizzard have always been for the last, I don't know, however many years, all about bring the player, not the class. Whereas suddenly, if you need to bring either a warlock or a hunter, then how is he supposed to do that mechanic?
Yeah, I mean, like there was this whole thing where we were talking in game, not on the podcast, but we were talking with people in the Discord thing some time ago when we were saying about the mythic invitational tournament things. And how a lot of people have like in their teams have like race changed specifically for a certain ability, or they've fought a certain class because that content patch it favored a certain class, so it had become a bit more bring the class, not the player, or bring the player, but bring the player with a different class, right?
Yeah.
So it gotten to the point where if you had a configuration for one dungeon that worked perfectly, you take that same configuration and it wouldn't work so well in another. Like for example, if you went to Topical and you had a rogue or someone with a blacksmith or the key thing, you could get that through. But if you went to a different dungeon and said, that favored more ranged DPS to be able to like for maneuverability and stuff, and you've got you've got a rogue and I don't know, another melee class, and suddenly you're like, oh, hang on, we're wiping quite a lot, and then you think, because the mechanics are completely different.
Yeah, so, I can't remember which one it is, but isn't there a fight where like we actually found it fairly easy because most of us are ranged, but like we were thinking like, oh well, if all 5 members of the party were melee, this mechanic would just kill us every time.
I know the other way around to look at it is that in King's Rest there's the council fight where you have the woman that throws the axes around, but she does it in such a way that means you just move out slightly and then you could all stand next to her and never get hit by them, which of course if you're ranged you're always away. So
I remember which one
hit by them.
I think it was actually one of the I think it was the affixes in Mythic Plus. Like one of them is really easy if you've got a bunch of range who can just quickly can just quickly turn and target something else. But actually, if you were all standing on top of each other, meleeing the boss, you'd be dead.
We heard of stories when there was quaking when they were when people were in siege of the boss, where you're waiting by the gate for it to open before you go down to the Visigoth at the end, and there would be a quaking proc, and people would just die because all 5 of them are standing next to each other, and you haven't got enough time to actually move away before it went off.
Yeah.
But speaking of Mythic Plus, I healed my first 11 last night.
Nice.
Oh my god! Like,
was that difficult?
I put the key in and I read it, and I was like, okay, so I know the affixes, but you know how every time there's a value of like plus whatever damage and health, it was 100%.
Oh wow!
It was the first time that damage and health had been doubled as a standard without any affixes on top.
Yeesh.
And there was everything had 20% more because it was fortified. So everything was 100% plus damage plus health plus another 20% of that on top. Oh god, it was tough.
That does not sound particularly pleasant.
To put it simply, we didn't do the key, but we got through it. We didn't give up. We finished it, but we didn't do it anywhere near the time.
Right.
But it was worth it because it means that, like, apparently, because if you do anything over an 11, you're guaranteed at least a 10 key.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Chest, which means that, like, that's good for keeping up the progress in that, but not when it costs nearly 1,000 gold repair during the dungeon.
Yeah, that's less than ideal.
Yeah, and I know that there was a couple of weeks ago where I wasn't available and you had to heal a 9, I think.
Yep, that wasn't too bad actually. I can't remember which one it was because it was a case of the dungeon we were in wasn't free. Was it? It was freehold. Yeah, it was freehold. I think. No, I think that one was a 4. I think it was freehold, and that one went all right. But it was only a case of it was the right dungeon with the right affixes. I think if you get a bad combination of those, it's just really painful.
Yeah, so that was my week so far. I mean, you mentioned that you've only raided this.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, because we can't really do 5-mans with me and my partner playing if I'm constantly disconnecting, because it means that we've got no chance of ever getting anything inside the time, because we're always either a DPS down or my character's dying because they're stood in something and we're losing the timer. So I basically just decided, I'm not going to. I was going to see about raiding just to see if it worked, and it kind of did. It was painful, but we got there and we got through bosses. So I'll give that another go this week. But yeah, this week I've been mostly just not playing WoW. I think I did one more level on my Warlock, and that's been about it, because I'm disconnecting every sort
I was
of
going to
3 or 4 quests.
Were you still having every time you change the zone, it would kick you?
Yeah, it just seems to be. I can have a certain amount of things open and I can play for a certain amount of time, and then it tries to write to whatever bad sector of my RAM is bad, and then that goes. I have the same with Chrome tabs. They refresh. They just randomly go, "Oh snap, we're broken," and I have to refresh
because they hog memory.
Yeah, that's it.
It's been a Chrome thing.
So yeah, didn't do much WoW this week. Just the raid, and I'll try and raid again on in this week. So we'll see how that goes. We played another table session of Invisible Sun. That was the first one, which I think I may have already talked about.
Yep, you did a little bit, but not the bit in the notes. So
there's, unlike like D&D, where like the next session is just where you left off, or maybe the next day or something. And I don't know if this is just the way our GM wants to run it, or whether it's part of the setting. But the next session is actually going to be several days, maybe even a week after the last one. But there is a mechanic within the game to do play away from table. And that basically means you tell the GM what you'd like to achieve, something that favours one of the goals that you've got listed on your character sheet. In this case, my character was trying to find some clues about this half-finished painting that he's got, that he doesn't know where it came from or anything. And so he visits his family home, because he's got a quite well-to-do large family in this world, but he was born in our world. So now he's in this world. He goes to sort of go and see his uncle and his his family mansion house and things like that. And so I told the GM what I'd like to do, and the GM has a mechanic where he has tables to consult and does some dice rolls, and basically comes back to me with, okay, this is information you get. These are some beats that I'd like you to hit, and this is the setup. But then otherwise, I can basically go away and write something, like a piece of prose, that describes like the sort of these in-game events, and they then become canon away from the table. So in my case, I wrote like a 5-page scene where he goes to this crazy old house and finds that his uncle is locked away. Won't take visitors, and apparently is ill, and doctors have ordered that he not see anyone, and he's being sort of fed by food and medicines passed under the door and this sort of thing. And then he'd find that the rest of the family had been sent away because of this, and that this like sort of magical automaton was running the house and caring for him and all this sort of thing. So it was quite fun. And then there was quite a sort of I wrote it with a sort of Lovecraftian horror vibe to it, and the ending that I'd been given. I hadn't been given the ending. I'd just basically been told that the last beat I had to hit and the information I got. And so in the end, like he ends up staring at a painting, and then it's sort of something in it moves and comes for him. And he sort of runs, flies out of the house and doesn't return. So it's an interesting mechanic, and I'd be very. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be assimilated into other things that other people have done and what the next step of the game is, but maybe that's a headache for the GM, not for me. I think I'm the only person who's done a post like that this week, but we do generally have a sort of character log, action adventure log type thing, where people post little bits of backstory and tidbits and that sort of thing. So we're kind of in the habit of doing that from our D&D games. And then there's been a little something that I decided to pick back up again after having walked away from it over a year ago. And you know, as the weather's very nice at the moment, and WoW is not taking up any of my time because I can't play it very well. I've decided to give Pokemon Go another go
good.
and get back into it. Are you?
Yes,
still
I
playing,
am.
Robbie? See, I am quite impressed actually about where the game's got to in a year since I last played it. The reason I quit last time was they just introduced the concept of raids, and they just introduced the concept of doing these raids to get legendary one-time. Well, at the time they were billed as one-time, you know, limited things. But it seemed like every single new legendary Pokemon you could catch had some bug in its raid, and the last one, the one that I just sort of that was it. That's one too many. I'm done. Was the creature, or after you'd beaten the raid, the Pokemon always appeared too far away for a ball to ever hit it.
Oh yeah,
and so you just end up with you just ended up with like a group of 20 people standing around, futilely throwing balls, and then just shrugging and walking off, and it like completely killed the camaraderie of working together on something. But yeah, I haven't got back into it now. I mean, trading is a thing. Friends are a thing. There are quests. There are all field studies.
Yeah, the field studies are really good.
There are now so many Pokemon that I have no clue who anything is, but it does mean I'm catching new things all the time. Because I left just as Gen 3 was being introduced. There was like maybe 7 Gen 3 Pokemon.
Yeah, now they're at Gen 4.
Now they're at Gen 4, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, I just found out that Magnemite has 3 evolutions now, and all this sort of thing. So yeah, I think I'm gonna enjoy getting back into it. I really loved it. So we did some Pokemon Transfer to see how that worked, and that worked really well. But battling gyms is fun now that actually they aren't full of bugs all the time, and you can actually have a fairly reliable. What's the word? Not reliable, but consistent experience. The friends features are really nice. Like sending gifts to your friends is really cool. What's the mechanic that I was impressed with? The fact that you can actually just like scan a QR code now to pair you with friends. And the fact that your PvP stuff, like if you want to battle other trainers, you can only do it with people who are your friends.
You can't
so you
just
don't
like have someone randomly say I want to battle and they're completely out leveled and everything like that.
And also it stops people. It makes it very unlikely that your PvP is going to turn into people being assholes, because actually these are people that are supposedly your friends.
Yeah, like it's a completely different experience to a year ago for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you're playing, because I can add you on there as a friend, and
that's good. Because I always seem to have too many. You can only send one a day, which means that inevitably my bags are being filled up with these things that I can only send at a limited time. So the more people that I manage to get on there, the better it will be for that.
Oh, there you go then. So I will have to let people know how I go on with Pokemon Go, and if I carry on playing it. So there we are. Cool. All right. So shall we jump into the geeky?
Yeah. You remember when a company called Samsung introduced a folding phone?
Oh, that's right. Yes, and
inevitably it wasn't properly designed and.
It didn't fold properly and it broke, if I recall correctly.
Right. We know a couple of other phone manufacturers that are building foldable smartphones, but some of them are now having a second thought about when to release them. Huawei's Mate X folding handset, which was originally planned to be launched at around this time, is now...
Which was the only
good design that we thought was the good design, apart from the clamshell Motorola thing that might be coming. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
that's now got a 3-month delay because they're making sure that the folding screen problems reported on the Samsung ones aren't going to affect their one. And they were extremely shady though, because the quote from Huawei to the BBC was, "We don't want to launch a product that will completely destroy our reputation."
Well, fair enough. That's probably
a good
to
reason,
avoid.
but it is also extremely on the nose. So yeah,
Yes. I on that note, just as an aside, I had one of my team over from our China office this week, and he's got his various bits of gadgetry on him, and he's got the same sort of watch as I've got because mine's a Chinese model smartwatch. But I said, "Oh, have you got a Huawei?" And he goes, "No, it's a Samsung." I'm like, "All right."
Weird.
Yeah, I was like, "All right, would you get a Huawei?" Like, no.
What was the reason? That was that because it was like a local product that people don't like? Was it because of the other news that's been going around?
I don't know. He didn't go into it, but like his reaction made me and the other people in the team, who we've all sort of said, we kind of don't trust that the brand is free from government interference. We all took that and laughed, and so that's kind of we didn't really press it anymore because then he laughed and we just sort of figured, oh, obviously we're all on the same page here. It might be that we're not. It might, that might be us making assumptions, but it was quite funny that he was just like, oh hell no.
There was a video that I saw, and there was a couple of YouTubers, because of course YouTube's a bit difficult to access in China. But there are foreign, I say foreign, in terms of Chinese, the Chinese area, there are foreign YouTubers, as in people that are not from China who live in China and make videos about China to upload to the rest of the world. And there was this interesting one about the reputation of Chinese products to Chinese people. And like things like, that they do, they build a lot of cars now. But in China, if you had a Chinese car, it would be considered less than a reputable foreign Western brand, for example, or a Japanese car, or because people were looking at it like here it's like, oh, British, grown in Britain, made in Britain, that's good. Here,
well, it used to be, it goes in stages. Like everyone's jumping on the Brexit bandwagon now and saying, "Oh, it's all 100% English."
Let's go with the rhetoric that it is that.
But for the longest time, it was like we, especially with things like lagers or beers or whatever. It was like, "Oh, you don't want to have something made in England. No, it's terrible. Get something made." To
put it into perspective, a lot of people in like the 70s and 80s, like they tried to buy British vehicles. And they were horrifically unreliable and badly made.
Yes,
but like that example is like over here, like some people would consider buying British products and things like that would be like the pinnacle, right? But it's weird that to me to think that in a country that literally there's been documentaries made about people trying to live their lives without made in China, right? And you find that the local people actually are just like, no. Even though a lot of people like work in tech and all that and make products, they're probably not using the tech that they make. They probably buy elsewhere, right? Even though, you know what I mean? Like a Chinese brand made in China, rather than they would buy a Japanese or a Korean manufactured phone, but still built in China. But because of the way that it's more reputable around the world, they're probably more likely to buy a foreign company's device rather than an internal local one.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so, but going back around to the folding screen thing, isn't it a good thing that they've sort of realised that the tech's not ready for release yet and said, actually, rather than put out something subpar like Samsung did, we're just gonna hold off.
Well, the thing that they're trying to give it extra scrutiny, right? So they're making sure that when they release a product, they're A, happy with it, and B, that it's been under extra scrutiny so that they can promote it as that. But I still, in the back of my head, I'm thinking there's always going to be something that you're going to miss even though they've taken 3 extra months to get this right. I don't know, 3 months to try and fix something that's quite fundamental to the phone. Potentially. So it could still be considered rushing.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, you could argue it's the Blizzard effect. Don't release it until it's ready.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was an interesting one. I mentioned about getting a new TV at the beginning of the show. Samsung has done a thing where it's kind of shot itself in the foot a bit, because Samsung smart TVs should be regularly virus checked, said the company.
Oh dear! So Samsung embarrassed themselves with their folding phone, and
now they're like, our smart TVs might be doing naughty things, which was the thing.
Oh dear!
There was an article a couple of months ago that was that it was recording you and this stuff.
Oh yes, I remember that.
And this seems to be an extension of that, where it's like, so I'll quote it's funny, the tweet's now deleted, but someone did screenshot it from the Samsung US support team. So it says, scanning your computer for malware viruses is important to keep it running smoothly. This is also true for your QLED TV if it's connected to Wi-Fi. Prevent malicious software attacks on your TV by scanning for viruses on your TV every few weeks. Here's how. And then they posted a video saying there's a secret menu thing to check it, right? But the point is that this should be if you're going to have to do this, it should be part of the menu system and not in a hidden menu. And B, you advertised it as a thing that would be impenetrable to viruses because that's what you advertised it as.
And also it's a television.
It's a television, but also it's a device that has its own web browser built in and has its own Wi-Fi cards and stuff. It's not going to be impenetrable no matter what OS you design on it. There's always going to be a way around it.
Well, that's the kind of strange thing as well, because I when I first read this, I was like, okay, so I guess I imagine it would run Linux. I mean, that's the sensible thing to base most. I think
that's
on.
What my new quote-unquote smart TV does have, yeah.
Right. But I was reading through the article, and apparently Samsung have actually, this is a proprietary operating system they've built called Tizen. And there's no details on, the underlying architecture there, but surely you should have been building your proprietary OS, expecting that, learning all the lessons that we have learned since the 1990s about exploits and things like that. As it only needs to be the operating system for a television, it doesn't need to be the operating system for a widely supported multi-hardware, multi-vendor configuration computer. Surely you should be able to make sure that it only does what it needs to do and nothing more.
You think that, right? But Samsung's come under a lot of scrutiny for this, funnily enough. So one expert says it seems to be a bit of pointless advice that's a waste of time. There is a tiny number of known malware attacks that might attack a TV. I've seen one case where ransomware infections, but the prospect of it happening to most users is very small. A better solution would be for Samsung to automatically update its operating system for you. Fair enough. It's on the Internet of Things. It can be done.
I have to kind of ask a question on that point, though. Why would you do a ransomware attack on a television? Who's putting data onto the television that they're going to pay to get back?
Okay.
This is the whole problem with this whole Internet of Things. It's maybe actually you just need the things and then the internet, and they
ransomware my fridge so it's locked so I can't open it. That would be a ransomware that would happen. If there was a fridge that was connected to the internet that locked itself and all this sort of stuff that inevitably will happen. Someone will hack your fridge and be like, "I've locked it. Give me some money, you can have your food back."
And then would you just reply, "No, there was at best £25 worth of food in there in the first place. I'll just buy the food."
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll just take it off the internet, unplug it for a bit, and reset it. What? Yeah,
exactly.
But another person that an expert in the field quoted as saying, trying to place the burden on users like this won't work in regards to secret menus and stuff like this. At the very least, Samsung should provide an on-screen prompt if this was really necessary. And this is the bit I have to agree with. Like, if they're saying that there is malicious software attacks that might affect your TV, you shouldn't be tweeting that. You should be sending a notification out to every Samsung TV this could be affected by.
Yeah.
And then you press the button, make them press the button, and they do it. You shouldn't have to access a secret menu. This is ridiculous.
The other thing for me is the line that Samsung Smart TVs shipped have come preloaded with McAfee security. I don't think McAfee is actually an antivirus anymore. It's more like a virus.
It's more like a bloatware software pretending to be security, to me anyway. But do you think that they've gone about this the wrong way? Like, can you praise them at all for anything to do with this, or have they just completely faffed this up?
I mean, I think that the suggestion, I think they've completely faffed this up, especially by now deleting the tweet, because that's basically just admitting that they are embarrassed by it and shouldn't have put it out in the first place.
Yeah.
I think the commenter here was correct in that this should be, at best, it should have been a comment that's like, hey, just so you know, if you've got a Samsung Smart TV and you see a prompt about updates, we're also updating your TVs to keep them secure against...
that's what's happening on a phone.
The internet. Yeah, I mean, there are arguments for using some form of antivirus on a phone, although I haven't found that I needed to get to that.
I mean,
yet,
I do just as a precaution, because I've used exactly the same software company that's been on my computer for like 6-7 years now. That's like a free antivirus, and they also also happened to have an app on Android. So I was like, you know what, never steered me wrong.
Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I think this is
unnecessary at best.
Yeah, it's unnecessary, and it's exposing a flaw in your product and trying to make out that it's a feature, which has been done so badly by so many people. But
saying it has a built-in antivirus software should be a selling point, not a backup, right? If this was how they were going to do this, like, they should have been like, as a precaution, we've put in this secret menu thing, and it should be in the instructions in the booklet, not sent out in a fucking tweet.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing, is if this is a necessary thing to do on your TV, A, why not schedule it for the TV to do it itself? But B, like, you have a TV that knows like when you're not using it and when you don't use it, so then in the middle of the night it just does its a quick antivirus check and shuts down.
Well, that's what happens on computers, isn't it? Like, you can schedule it to be done at the middle of the night if you've left the computer on, and it will turn itself off.
The other thing is, like, don't, like you say, don't, if this is something that needs to be done regularly, don't put it in a tweet, put it in the instructions, and also, like you pointed out, don't bury the option in a menu somewhere.
Make it obvious, because this is the thing. A lot of people who have, you can't assume that everybody that's bought a smart TV is in the tech industry or worked in the tech industry or is very familiar with it. You can't. You have to assume that every user needs the direction instructed to them of how to do a thing, right? Like, if the button doesn't say menu on the remote, you don't expect anyone to be able to access it.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it should be plain and simple. If it had to have some form of built-in check, it should be in when you turn the TV on, it should flash up and say something about it. And it should also say, if you press the menu button on your remote and go down to the settings menu, there will be an antivirus button there to press at your discretion, or it will do it automatically after 7 days. You know what I mean? Like, just like foolproof it. It has to be done, whether it has the customer's input or not. If this is such a problem, it should have been something that has been patched in automatically to do, not at the discretion of a user who most likely won't.
Yeah. And the other sort of complete own goal on this is that by putting this out there, you're then suddenly making people think, oh my God, my TV is going to get a virus at any minute.
They're going to send it back, or they're going to not use it.
Yeah.
Or turn the Wi-Fi off and never use the features again, in which case they've bought a smart TV with intended to use like apps like catch-up services and that. Because that's what I've now inadvertently done, is that I don't have to use my computer to watch BBC iPlayer or anything like that, because I can have it on the TV now and use less power. That's the whole idea of this. So if this happened with the company that I bought from, it wasn't a Samsung TV, so I'm fine. But if this was to happen, of course I'd be taking every precaution I can to do this, like because I could go onto my router and I could put in a VPN if I had to. Things that other people that might not be very familiar with, I could do and prevent problems myself. But again, I shouldn't have to. If I've paid into a product that's got to look out for the end user if they're going to want repeat buyers or more buyers, right?
Yeah.
So I just think they've completely gone about this completely the wrong way, and someone needs a good talking to.
Yeah, it's not Samsung at the moment really don't seem to have the right people making decisions about their public image. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, agreed.
So, on to our third topic, and this caught my eye, not for the actual. I mean, the story is interesting, but it was the way it was pitched as the sort of inevitability of it all. So the headline of this article was, "Will self-driving cars turn people into even bigger arseholes?" And I just love that it wasn't "Will self-driving cars turn people into arseholes?" It was
like,
"Will it turn
people are shit? Will it make them more shit?"
Yeah. So apparently, this is sort of. Experiments done in America, experiments done in the UK, basically anywhere where they're designing and testing self-driving cars. A lot of the reports coming back are basically people are bullying the cars.
Oh, don't do that.
So, like, sometimes physically bullying them, like they seem to think it's fine to hit the cars with things, and other times verbally bullying them, or like trying to confuse them and sending them with one set of instructions and then changing them midway through and this sort of thing.
Why would you do that?
I don't know, but there's in the New York Times in 2018, the end of 2018, the New York Times reported there'd been 20 acts of violence committed against the Waymo autonomous vehicles that they have out there. One person apparently threatened the car with a pipe.
I just read that I was just clicked the article that it linked to, and I started reading it just as you were saying that, and I'm just like, because this was the whole thing that started when, if I'm right, Uber's self-driving test struck and killed a person, right?
Yeah,
and then it kind of snowballed into this whole "it's a robot, we can do what the fuck we like to it" thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of those Boston Dynamic videos where they put things on the floor so the robot dogs would slip.
Yeah.
Like, they're just doing it for the sake. They're probably testing it in that respect, but people would do shit like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. Apparently, people are doing shit like that.
Like, I already have like a very low opinion of humanity in general. This isn't helping.
No, and also I can't figure out how it's not self-detrimental. I mean, if you're using one of these self-driving services, it's because you want to get somewhere.
Oh, okay. I've reread the bit in this other article. It's a little bit different to threatening the car.
Oh, okay.
It was the employee inside the car that was threatened with the pipe, not the car.
Oh, I see. But this article's about self-driving cars.
Yeah, but at the time when they were testing, they always had to have someone in the car with them by law.
Oh, I see.
So
right.
When the self-driving car had fucked up, according to the report, backup drivers in cars had been reportedly attacked by people who had been yelling at them by other drivers that had threatened their safety. So, for example, the car would be reversing around a corner. It wouldn't see the car, and the person would have to intervene and stop suddenly rather than the car stopping itself. And then the person who they nearly hit would then go to the driver, because, of course, that's how fucking road rage starts, doesn't it? So,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, well, don't release your self-driving cars as a service until it's ready, and until it has, doesn't need a human to be in it, and isn't pissing people off by not working properly.
I mean, the thing is, though, the thing that got me more was that I think this is technically a private, not a company. This was someone who'd bought a Tesla.
Oh, I see.
And was asleep behind the wheel, even though by law, you have to be able to take
Yeah.
control of the vehicle at any point.
Yeah, there's actually a picture in the article. He's clearly in the back seat.
Yeah, he's
asleep
not
across the
even.
back seat.
Yeah, and I've read up about it I think a couple of years ago when we were first talking about how Tesla were starting their tests for autopiloting and stuff like that. I think we both of us had even mentioned that at the prospect of you just know someone is going to get into the back seat.
Well, I saw it's not linked in this article, although I think it's referenced. I saw an article a couple of weeks ago now, which I saw it at work, so I didn't click on it. But it was basically people have already made porn of two people going at it in the back of a car that's driving itself, because
of course they have. But like, even though by law you have to have someone in the driver's seat to take control at any point, like. I don't. Okay, to go back to the question of the article, yeah, the answer is yes, because people are shit.
I'm kind of, when I thought they were bullying the cars, I thought that was kind of like, oh well, it's a shame people are behaving like dicks, but in the end they are just cars. They don't have any feelings. They are just machines. But the fact they're actually also threatening the people who are only there to ensure their safety, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, attack the person that's there to be take preventative action. They take preventative action, and you yell at them.
Mind you, that's the same as people who call the police or call the fire brigade to only to ambush them and like smash the shit out of their vehicles and stuff. It's like, how is that doing anyone any good? Yeah,
I really don't know. I don't know what the point of doing this sort of shit is. I don't get it. Like, I must be one of, like, in the minority of thinking that, no, this technology is for something good. Why get mad at it? Get mad at the person that programmed it or send a complaint. Don't go to the car and go, what the fuck are you doing? A car won't fucking understand that. Like, I'm
reminded of the Basil Fawlty scene in
was
Towers where he grabs the branch and starts
whacking the car. Yeah. Like, the thing that was interesting was I was watching. I have a feeling it was actually QI, and they were talking about autonomous vehicles and stuff, and they brought up the whole thing of the fact that morality has to be programmed into them.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking there's kind of a detrimental effect in my head right now that's like, don't bother. Just kill everyone with it. Like, fuck it. If people are going to be assholes to it, let it happen. But no, that I can't be like that. So, it's a tough one because you think of all the good that this could possibly have, right? And then you just see people doing shit like this. Like, why would you slash the tires of it? Like, what the fuck? Why?
Well, I think we can safely wrap this one up by saying people are shit.
Yeah, true that.
Well, there we go.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, do let us know what you think about either Samsung embarrassing themselves in both the phone and the television market, and people beating the crap out of robotic cars. What are we?
Yeah. Okay, God.
If you do, in all seriousness, if you do want to get in touch with us, you can tweet at us at TGC Show. That's the easiest way to let us know any thoughts or opinions you have about any of the articles we've been talking about on a show, or if you want to suggest something we might want to talk about, or you wanted to link us to something cool. All of those things can be done on the Twitters at TGC Show. If you want to take a look at the show notes, you can do that. They are on Podbean, where we host the show originally. That's thegeekcard.podbean.com, all lowercase. If you want to get the show a day earlier than standard podcast platforms will release it, we go out exclusively on VOG Network. That's the Voice of Geek Network, where you can find amazing shows. Obviously, Girls Gone Wow, we mention them regularly, but there's Orange Lounge Radio, there's Starboard Power Coupling, there's tons and tons of shows for everything, pop culture or geeky. Do they still have the Pokemon Go
where
show
it's still listed, but I just wanted to say it's a bit of a special week for Orange Lounge Radio. It's their 17th anniversary.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So well
I
done.
knew they'd been going for a while, but I didn't realize they'd been going that long. Well, congratulations on your 17th anniversary, guys. So yes, check that out, vognetwork.com, and you can check us out on the Thursdays, vognetwork.com/the-geek-card.
Yeah.
I am on the Twitters. I am at RZBG. Robbie, are you on the
I
Twitters?
am, and you can find me at Robbie_glow. Did you manage to find anything fun this week?
I did. I found one thing which did make me
Okay,
chuckle, just to
good.
end on a nice
Thank
note.
you.
So it turns out that Domino's Pizza tried to deliver a pizza to the Queen of England in Buckingham Palace. I say the Queen of England, the Queen of the whole United Kingdom in Buckingham Palace, which, if you didn't know, is smack bang in the centre of London and one of the most heavily guarded places outside of Parliament.
Yeah.
They got an order for the Domino's Pizza place in Victoria, which is, I guess, probably pretty close to there. It was for £46 worth of 4 cheeseburger pizzas. Now, I'm at this point going to take a step aside and say, cheeseburger pizzas, Domino's? Really? What the fuck is that?
I think it's basically just the ingredients that go between the buns on top of a pizza. I think is the way I read that.
And every Italian listener we may have had has just turned off in disgust.
To be fair, like, takeaway pizza hasn't been Italian for a long time.
So they ordered £46 worth of these pizzas, cash on delivery, so they didn't pay for them. And nobody at this point seems to have clocked that, hang on, why would the Queen be ordering 4 pizzas, and how on earth do we deliver to Buckingham Palace? Nope. Instead, one of their drivers rocked up at the gates and told the security and the Met Police there, oh, I've got to deliver these to Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Strangely enough, that didn't happen. Security radioed up to see if the Queen actually had ordered something, and not surprisingly, no, she hadn't. So in the end, the security guard and the police distributed the pizzas amongst themselves.
Oh, good. Well, at least I'm glad it went to somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose that was appreciated, but you have to kind of hope that somebody paid the driver £46, and he didn't just end up out of pocket on it.
Do you know what? Like, it must be really awful to try and deliver pizza in central London.
I would not even want to attempt it. I have actually had to drive around for a job in central London, and I hated every minute of it. So, yes.
Oh,
but so there's a quote from the store manager, and they say, we've always suspected the Queen was secretly a Domino's fan, and the order to Buckingham Palace almost confirmed our suspicions. We didn't quite make it past the gate, but the 4 large cheeseburger pizzas seemed to go down pretty well with the police officers on duty. Next time, Your Majesty.
I like the fact that, like, the driver probably rang up the manager and was just like, yeah, so this was clearly a hoax. Should I just give the pizzas to security? Because someone had to make that decision, right? Because you know, it would have just gone back to where it was, I assume.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Otherwise, it is especially if the driver or the restaurant is out of pocket for it, then whoever drank it would be an asshole. But having said that, I'm wondering, especially with this press release, if this wasn't actually a
bit of a go
publicity thing on that shop's part. The article just ends with, a spokesperson from the Met Police refused to comment.
Because it was a security matter.
Yes, how to get pizzas into Buckingham Palace is a security issue.
Yes, clearly it is.
So there we go. The Queen got the munchies and ordered herself 4 large pizzas. Excellent. On that note, I think it's time that you passed over your Geek Card. There we are. Thank you very much. And we ink the stamp and make this all official like. There we are. Until next week, we are all good, we're all up to date, and we have been the Geek Card. Goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Geek Card with your hosts, Razerbug and Robbie Glow. You can find The Geek Card wherever fine podcasts are found, and on the web at thegeekcard.podbean.com. The Geek Card is a proud member of the Voice of Geeks Network, where you can find other amazing podcasts like Orange Lounge Radio, Starboard Power Coupling, and Girls Gone Wow. Find out more at www.vognetwork.com. geekcard.com.